Hello, everybody, and welcome to Word Up Wednesday, your weekly word boost. You know, one sure way to find assurance and confidence for what lies ahead in your life is to look back over what has already occurred. By looking at your past, by looking at how God has dealt with you through the years, you can get a good indication of how he will deal with you in the future. By looking at God's track record in regards to your life, you can get an encouraging glimpse of how God will move in the coming days and the coming years. And this is true even if your past is filled with trouble and adversity. This is true even if when you examine your life's history, you see mistakes, you see wrong choices, you see ugly circumstances and painful consequences. In spite of these things, you can still use your past as encouragement for the future. Because an adverse history, a past filled with trials and tribulations, gives you an even greater testimony to encourage you in the future. Because you can testify better than anybody else of the power and the ability of God to bring you through. The more you've been through, the greater your testimony. The more adversity in your life, the more inspiring your story. The more trials and tribulations and trouble you experienced in your life, the more encouraged you should be concerning your future. Because you know better than anybody else what God can do, what he can do for you, what he can do through you, and what he can do to you. This is what young David is trying to impress upon King Saul in that familiar event from the Bible, where young David, the shepherd boy of Jesse, has volunteered to fight against this giant Philistine called Goliath. We know the story, how those who heard David ask to fight Goliath began to disparage and demean him. His oldest brother said, "Boy, you better go back to feeding those sheep." And every time he asked someone else about fighting the giant, he got the same answer. Finally, King Saul said to him, "You are not able to go up against this giant. You are only a boy." He has been a warrior all his life. But then David says, "Wait a minute, King Saul. Let me give you a little history. Let me tell you a little something about who I am and what I've been through." In other words, King Saul, you are in no position to judge me because you don't know my story. You see, when I used to keep my father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and I struck it and I delivered the lamb from its mouth. And when it would arise against me, I would catch it by the throat and strike it and kill it. Listen, King Saul, I have killed both the lion and the bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine will be like just one of them. Because the same God who has delivered me from the paw of the lion and the same God who has delivered me from the paw of the bear shall surely deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And all King Saul could say was, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Hey, that's David's testimony. But just like David, each of us has a testimony too. Every one of us has had to go through and fight some stuff just like David. We've had our own lions to deal with. We've had our own bears to deal with. Surely many times in many different situations, God has stepped in to deliver us from the hand of disaster. Surely God has been with us as we fought the attacking enemies of life. And surely God has always brought us through. So When you go to face a giant in life, just remember, like David, that the same God who delivered you from your lion and your bear will be with you as you face down your giant, whoever or whatever it might be. So don't lose heart because of whatever giant is standing before you. Take Saul's final advice to David. Go, and the Lord be with you. Till next time, word up.